dear friends, we could have such a sorrow in our hearts, such a frustration. I'm not appreciated by my superiors. I'm not appreciated by my companions. Even those who live with me, even they do not appreciate me. It could be happening. And yet one thing is true. We have our God. In prayer, if I am rooted and grounded in prayer, this is a time of revelation. God speaking to our hearts. God giving us a new identity. God giving us a new mission. God giving us a new joy into our hearts. And this is what really our joy is. To be there in the presence of our God. My dear friends, who am I? St. Paul asked this question to himself. Who am I? And he got the answer. And that answer was written into his heart so deeply that in every letter that St. Paul writes, the first verse, I, Paul is writing, who is the author of this letter? I, Paul, who am I? Called by God. Called by God. That is what I am. That's my identity. I am called to a deep relationship with my God. I, Paul, called by God. Romans chapter 1, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, Galatians chapter 1, verses 1 onwards we read this. Paul knew that was his identity. I am called. I am wanted. I am accepted. I am appreciated by my God because He has called me as His own into an intimate, personal relationship with Him. I, Paul, called by God. You know, in the early church, there was a crisis, as you know. Because there were 12 apostles called by Jesus and given a mission. That's what apostleship is. Called and having a mission. And these were the 12. Simon Peter onwards, the 12. And finally, when Judas betrayed Jesus and forfeited his apostleship, then came Matthias, a new person. But only 12. And many in the early church challenged Paul, Saul. He has not seen the Lord. He was not called by the Lord. And that's when Paul takes up that issue powerfully. Powerfully. I am called. I know this. I have seen my Lord. My Lord has called me. I have heard Him. That assurance, that affirmation, I am called by my God. Paul asserts it 4 times in the book of Acts, and in the letters of St. Paul, we read this 4 times. Paul describing his call. His call was so clear to him that he affirms it, he asserts it for everyone to know. I did not take up this mission on myself. I am called by my God. Mother sent Mother Teresa. That's what we laughingly call her. He was asked, Mother, are you successful in what you are doing? Because Mother Teresa was taking up all challenging, greatly challenging apostolate, works of mercy. And she was asked, are you successful in what you are doing, in what you are taking up? You know what the mother said? You know that. It's quoted all over. The mother said, I don't seek to be successful. I don't seek to be successful. I just want to be faithful. There's a big difference between being successful and being faithful. Successful is about a work. I do a work, I did it successfully. But faithful is a person. It's a very personal concept. I'm faithful to my God. I seek to be faithful. And this is what we should be. Faithful. Always to the Lord who calls us. That's why in Mark chapter 3, verse 13, we have a beautiful verse. And we have been meditating this from our postulancy days or minor seminary days. Jesus called those whom he liked. To like someone. To like someone is more than even love, perhaps. To like someone, when do I like someone? I have an emotional bond with him. That's when I like someone. And that's what Jesus has for me. My Jesus likes me. I was wondering, my dear friends, is a whole lifetime enough for me to know the depth of that liking of my God that he has for me? My Jesus looks at me and my Jesus likes me. He likes my presence. He likes me to be with him. He likes me to belong to him. He likes me. Because he likes me, he sends me out to do many things. I'm liked by my Jesus. I'm so dear. I'm so precious to my Jesus to know this. But dear friends, it's the joy of our living, not our success. Not everyone can always be successful. But we are not what we are doing. We are what we are being. We are what we are. I am. Who am I? I am called because I am liked by my God. My dear friends, there is one more sickness or sin that Pope Francis spoke about. Spiritual Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's, as we know, is forgetfulness. We forget. We forget everything that happens to us, around us. And when it comes spiritual Alzheimer's, what does that mean? I have no beautiful memories. No beautiful memories. Beautiful memories of my deep relationship with my Jesus. I have nothing good to remember. What Jesus spoke to me. What Jesus did to me. How Jesus loved me. I have nothing good to remember when I think about myself. Spiritual Alzheimer's could be a terrible disease. I have nothing good to remember. I have no memory to cherish. No memory to cherish of my relationship with my Jesus or Jesus' relationship with me. Spiritual Alzheimer's. And that will lead us to existential schizophrenia. Therefore, I'm just going about doing things. I'm not aware, unfortunately, who I am. Therefore, I'm doing things. In fact, my doing things should proceed from my identity. If it does not proceed from my identity, then it is a burden. Always seeking attention from others. always seeking appreciation from others, always seeking affection from others. If someone tells me, Father, I love you, I feel so excited. I feel so excited. If it is a person of the other sex, I am all taken up. I am told she or he likes me. Definitely, it's a joy to know that I'm loved. But then, why am I so excited about it? Why do I search for it? Why do I look for it all the time? Because I'm not rooted, I'm not grounded in the love of my Jesus. I'm not a Peter, I'm not a rock. I'm not strengthened by my love to Jesus. Let me share with you, my dear friends, a very humble experience of mine. There was a moment in my life when I was very distracted, very upset, very shattered. This was just before my priestly ordination. Father Rector told me, Augustine, you are completing your priestly formation. If you want, you can be ordained a priest. I told him, oh, Father, sure. Tell me, what shall I do? He said, you write an application and give it to me. I asked him, Father, what shall I write? He said, write in your own words that you are called by God, that you are completing your priestly formation, and you want to be ordained a priest, and you will be faithful to God and your superiors in the Catholic Church. And he said, you are a Vincentian, therefore you will be faithful also and obedient to your superiors in the congregation. You write it and give it to me. I said, Father, I will just come back. I went to my room, I took a piece of paper and began to write. And so, I'm completing my priestly formation and I want to be ordained a priest. I'm called by God. And I began to write, and slowly I realized my hands began to shiver. I was not sure anymore whether I'm really called by my God. I was not sure anymore. I always knew I was called. I always thought I was called. But I began to doubt, am I really called? I was 25 years old then. And if I'm not called, how can I commit my whole life to my God? I was all in doubts. I went to my spiritual director. My spiritual director was a German priest. You know, these Germans are very tough people. But this man was very understanding. I told him, Father, I have a problem. I'm writing my application. I cannot sign it because I don't know whether I'm called at all. I'm not sure anymore. Father, I asked him, can you tell me whether I'm called or not? When I asked him that question, he laughed aloud. He said, oh, you're a fool, he said. That I knew. And he said, Augustine, how do I know whether you are called or not? If you are called, you should have heard it. I was shocked. I said, Father, I should have heard it. I don't remember God calling me by name and telling me, asking me to come into priesthood. I don't remember this. And in a very cold voice he said, if you don't remember, that means you are not called. If you haven't heard God calling you, that means you are not called. Simple as that. I was shocked. But then I said to myself, if I'm not called, I don't want to dare enter into priestly life. Immediately he said, Augustine, don't make too many mistakes. Then he opened to me 1 Samuel chapter 3. God calling Samuel. God called Samuel 3 times. All the 3 times Samuel could not hear. He heard, did not know God was calling him. But then when he waited to hear God's call, that's when he really heard. And he responded. God appointed him as the prophet of the people of God. My spiritual director told me, thankfully, Augustine, wait upon God. Wait upon God to hear God calling you. Then we had a retreat. This was a directed retreat, no talks. Only one short session and a holy mass. And we could meet the director every day, and my spiritual director himself was directing that retreat. I asked him, Father, what shall I do? He said, you pray, speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. I started praying. First day, second day, third day. I was very drowsy and hungry the first 2 days. The third day onwards, I became very calm and serene. An assurance came to my mind that God will speak to me. And I waited praying. Speak, Lord. Your servant is listening. The 5th day, something beautiful happened. I saw my Jesus so clearly. And I heard him speaking to me. Augustine, that's my name. You are precious to me. You are dear to me. I love you. As soon as I heard this in my heart, I knew this was Isaiah 43:4. In my scripture classes, my professors have taught me that this is a word that God spoke to Isaiah. My professors never told me this is what God is speaking to me. But here there's no Isaiah. It's me and my Jesus. I see him so clearly in my heart. And I hear this. You are precious to me. You are dear to me. I love you. I heard it over and over again. A few hours together. I heard it echoing and re-echoing in my heart. I heard it so clearly. At the end of the day, I went to my spiritual director and I told him, Father, this is what happened. He hugged me and said to me, Augustine, this is what it means. This is what it means. God calling to hear it in the depth of the heart. I went to my room. I took that paper. I signed it. My hands did not shiver when I signed that paper. Now it is 42 years I'm a priest. I'm a happy priest. I'm happy to tell you this. Because I know one thing. I belong to my Jesus. He loves me. He cares for me. That does not mean I have no problems. No. That does not mean I have no temptations. That does not mean I have not made mistakes. That does not mean I have not failed my Jesus. Oh, number of times, so many times. And yet, whenever anything goes wrong with my life, one thing I do, I lock my door from inside. I sit on my chair and I ask my Jesus, Lord, where are you? I have failed. Where are you? I'm tempted. Where are you? I feel so weak and overwhelmed by my own weaknesses. I'm so misunderstood. God, where are you? Once again, the same face. Once again, the same voice, reassuring me of His call. You are precious to me. You are dear to me. I love you. My whole attempt is to understand the depth of this voice of my Jesus. That I, who am such a fool, am precious to my God. I'm dear to Him. That He loves me. Who am I to be loved by my God? And yet, I know this. I'm precious. I'm dear to my God. My dear fathers and sisters, I believe my joy, the joy of my priesthood, the joy of my religious life, is the way my God has called me. The way my Jesus looks at me. And I got it as a revelation from my God. And He must wait for this. I am called not because my novice mistress told me I am called. I am called because my Jesus tells me I am called in an intimate relationship, a deep affection, a great joy that Jesus has for me. Let's all stand up. Jesus, here I am. I surrender my life to you. Only one thing I ask for. Jesus, I want to get this revelation from you. Who I am. Jesus, you waited before the Father to listen to the voice of the Father telling you who you are. Only when you tell me who I am, I would really know my identity, what I am living for. Speak, Lord. Your servant, your handmaid is listening to you. I want to wait upon you, Jesus, today. I want to spend time. I want to waste time sitting at your feet to listen to your voice. Here am I, your servant. Let it be done to me according to your word.